Yo, party people, episode 48 of Where My Killa Tape At. Man, counting it down, huh? In this episode, I am going to review Black Moon 25th anniversary. Word is born for Enter the Stage. I'm going to talk about where I first saw the idea, actually the notion, the false notion that black women aren't supposed to get their menstruation. And I tell you where I actually got that from. I talk a little bit about Shuri and Nnedi Okorafor, her run on that article, not article, in that comic on Marvel. If you haven't got that, get that. And I touch again about mental health. So let's do this again, party people. Come on down.
Rock, steady, rock, steady, rock, rock, rock. Steady, 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 steady.
Gangsta, 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 gangsta.
As for you profess it, make sure the science is applied with that who, what, when. Sometimes
I pull up, I bought and wrote, made it look sexy. They won't take me out my element. Nah, take me out my element.
For episode 48 of Where My Killa Tape At, this one comes from, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Campanology Brewing out of Wanaki, Wisconsin. For whom Imperial Mexican Stout with ancho chiles, cacao nibs, and cinnamon. Did I say that right? Cacao, right? Ancho chiles, cacao nibs, and cinnamon. Yo, why is they brewing Mexican Stout in Wisconsin? But yo, it's nice though. Word is born. It's nice. Also, man, y'all go stop slandering Instagram models, IG models, man. Y'all go stop doing that, man. There's a reason why they got millions of followers. And you know what? A lot of y'all try to front like y'all don't like them, but y'all be following them. Y'all be commenting and stuff like that. Y'all think y'all slick, man. We see through the madness that y'all doing out here. Shout out to the IG models, man. They turn up my timeline on IG. We love y'all. We see y'all. We salute you. I prefer the term IG personalities, but that's just me. Word.
Yeah. Yo, I think Prince should run first on this one. I think so. Yeah. Yo, I think Prince should run first on this one. I think so.
This past Wednesday, October 18th, Marvel released the first issue of Shuri, of course, T'Challa's younger sister, and it's actually written by Nnedi Okorafor. If you're not familiar with who she is, she's written such great books such as Who Fears Death, which I think they're going to make it into like a Showtime series. Also Zara the Windseeker and the Binti series, which is phenomenal. If you haven't read any of her stuff, you need to get up on it. Anyway, she writes this piece and Leonardo Romero does the penciling. And this is not the first time she's been into the Wakanda thing, because I know she wrote a Black Panther series, which originally was only available on digital. Now you can buy it on trade paperback. Now, I'm going to say this about buying these issues, because I know a lot of us like to buy trades. I know I don't really like buying trades, but I kind of have to because it just makes economic sense for me. And I know I'm going to make a lot of contradictions right now. But trade paperbacks, we talked about this before, are a series of usually 2 story arcs, which is usually about 6 issues put into like a trade paperback. So it was like a big comic book, a thick comic book that's a little bit more sturdier. The covers are like made out of plastic. So actually not plastic, but harder paper. So a lot of us end up buying that. But what we've learned is that it's not actually the trades that keep the comic books going. You have to buy the individual comic books. So if you want Marvel to keep a series like Shuri around, written by a black woman, then you have to actually buy the individual issues. So what I urge you to do is, and this is something that's more bang for your buck actually, buy the Shuri issue, right, the regular, but then buy the variant editions. We talked about this in the previous episode. where we say that, where I was talking about what a variant edition is. A variant edition is when you buy the same comic book, but it has a cover by a different artist. That being said, the variant editions are actually the comics that are going to be worth more 10 to 15 years from now, because the reason being is that those variant covers or variant editions, they are only limited releases. So they might have like 5,000 copies of those. So that's why those are going to be worth more. And that's why they usually cost more than, say, the regular issues. So do me a favor, buy yourself a issue of Shuri, and then go ahead and buy the variant edition or the variant covers, and maybe give that away as a gift. What I usually do is I usually buy issue number 1, and then I buy the variant editions and I give those away as presents, because those are actually worth money. So again, I recommend that you buy the regular issue and then buy the variant editions. Do not open up the variant editions. Okay, keep those in the plastic with the backs and everything, with the cardboard backs and everything, and save those, because those are going to be worth money in the future. Just to give you a heads up on that. Word is born. Also, just to let you know that Roxane Gay wrote a series called The World of Wakanda, and it dealt with the Dora Milaje. Highly recommended. I think for 2017, I rated it as one of the top 5 comics of the year. So I definitely recommend that you get that. It was canceled because it just wasn't, Marvel canceled it because it just wasn't making the sales, right? And the rule of thumb is if it sells more than 20,000 units per month, then they're going to usually keep it. But when it goes below that number, when it dips there, it does that. So please go out there. I don't recommend buying the digital. Here's why I don't recommend buying the digital, because they're going to charge you the same price as the hard copy. What's cool about Marvel is I know they're a little bit more expensive than the average other comic publishers. So they're usually $3.99. But they actually give you a digital edition. So if you buy it, you can there's a little code in there you put in, and you can use on the marvelcomics.com. And then you could actually transfer that to your Comixology. So I recommend that you buy the actual hard copy, because it comes with a digital. Whereas if you buy the digital only, you don't get the hard copy. See how that works? I hope that helps you out. If you have any more questions, just go ahead and DM me. Word. I talk about this online all the time, especially when it comes to Kanye. I know I kind of brought it up in a previous episode, but when it comes to mental health, or when we say health here at where My Killa Tape At, a lot of us like to look at, we like to use mental health as an excuse to kind of like justify people's abuse towards others. And I think that's fucked up. We do it all the time, right? We'll do it to, let's say, for example, like here's an example. The highest cases of domestic violence are from police officers, right? And a lot of us will sweep it under the rug by saying, well, they have a hard job. They deal with criminals all the time. They deal with a bureaucracy, and they deal with a justice system that's broken, et cetera, et cetera. And we kind of like allow it to happen, or not allow it to happen, but we kind of like give them a break, right? So it's the same thing when we talk about, health. We always say, oh, well, because of this, this person, he or she was abusive, and I think we need to stop being that way. Kanye West isn't acting like this because of his mental health issues. And let me just say this. Let me be frank. I am not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure most of y'all are not doctors either. But I see this happen every day. I see us enable our friends and relatives, people that we love. We enable their behavior by saying that it's tied to their mental health. Even though we know a lot of people who kind of have those same health issues, and they don't act like that, right? One thing I've learned is that an asshole is a motherfucking asshole, right? No matter where they are, where they from, whether they're a police officer, whether they're a lay person, whether you're your uncle, your mom, they're going to be just abusive to people. And we should stop trying to figure out why they're doing it and justify it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with figuring out why they do it, but we usually figure out why they do it so that we can justify it. And I don't think that's fair. I really don't think that's fair. I think, again, it's enabling, and we allow people to get away with those kinds of abuse. And, you could think that I'm wrong, but I see this happen just way too often. I just consistently see it happen literally all my life. People get away with stuff because of that. And I don't think that's fair. I think they should still be held accountable for their actions no matter what we might think the cause of it might be. Or also, for those of you that want to get some advice from your man, DanTresOmi, I know I refer to myself in the third person. You could always use my Gmail, DanTresOmi@gmail.com, DanTresGomi. Right? No. DanTresOmi @gmail. My bad. But check it out if you want to ask advice. Dating advice. Only one I don't do is I don't count. You could go ahead and throw in relationship advice if you want. What to name your child. What car you should buy next. Should you buy a home? Yo, come talk to me, man. Let me know. Let me know in the subject line, advice, and let me know if you want me to keep your name anonymous or not. Trying to help my peoples out here. Do this. It'll all be in the show notes as well. Real quick, I want to make not a correction. I just want to be clear about something. In episode 46, I talked about I said the word spiritual. That when it comes to fasting in the health segment, I talked about spiritual. I'm an atheist, first of all, so when I use the term spiritual, I don't mean it in the supernatural sense, right? I don't mean it in like an out of body experience or something that's my soul or whatever. When I say spiritual, and I should have been clear about this, I apologize for that. I meant it's a shared experience that I have with somebody else or a group of people, or it's an experience that I have that elevates my emotional and mental state. So that's what I mean by that. I don't mean anything spooky or whatever, or mystery God, all that stuff. I don't really spirits. I don't really deal with that. So when I say spiritual, that's what I mean. A good example I could give is like when I do capoeira, right? When I go into a holda's a circle, and the music is bumping, and we out there, we feeling it, and we going hard. Like that moment you feel, that's an emotional and mental experience that I share with other people while doing capoeira. So that's like the best example I could give. It's not spirits writing me or nothing like that. So I just wanted to be clear on that, because when I use the word spiritual, that's what I mean by that. So, a shared experience. I hope that helps you out. All right. In this segment in Adventures in No Tap, I talk about where I first learned with the idea that black women were not supposed to get menstruation cycles. So I'm not saying that where I got this from back in the day is where it originated from. This is where I saw it first. The first time I saw it was a book that I bought back in 1994. And I think by that time, by 1994, I want to say it was like in its 7th or 8th edition. You can still purchase this book now, and it's probably like in its 15th or 16th edition. And it is Dr. Layla Africa's African Holistic Health. And he spells Africa with a K. So it's a fat book, and he just covers the gamut from everything. I mean, he even has recipes in the back about what you can use. Like, for example, instead of using toothpaste, you can use like charcoal and strawberries. I don't know how he got that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. In that book is where he talked about how black women, or really women of color, because he talks about natives as well, how they did not get their menstruation cycle until slavery, until, colonialism. He said that. He says it in that book. Now, don't get me wrong. I have the book somewhere. I'm not looking at it. But he doesn't cite anything in there. So I don't know where he got it from. And I'm not saying he's the first one to have said that. But I do know that that's the first time I saw it. And that's when I started kicking that shit. That's when I was telling people like, yo, black women, they supposed to have their menstruation before the white man came. They didn't have periods. So that's what the first time I saw it. And I know that the people that I rolled with read that book and they were kicking that stuff too. And I know that information spread, even though people weren't, we didn't have the internet like that back then. So you didn't have Amazon, right? You didn't have BarnesandNobles.com. So you couldn't just buy. You had to go to black-owned bookstores and you had to buy it. So you had to find the one in your neighborhood, in your community, and you had to buy it. But it wasn't like, because it's a big book, a lot of people try to like avoid it. So they went to the smaller joints that were the staples of the note tapes. And some of them were legitimate, but this one wasn't. And I thought it was, and I believed it, and I kicked it. And that's when I was like a vegan. And there's some things in there that are on point. Yes, actually they are. But most of the stuff that's in there isn't. And that particular part about how black women aren't supposed to get their menstruation comes from there. That is not true, ladies and gentlemen. Just to let y'all know, Biology 101 will teach you that menstruation is just part of the female anatomy and how they function. So don't believe the hype. And that is my first part of that discussion, or that talk, or story. For the second part of that story, while I was a young and budding no tep, I was a sailor in the United States Navy. Yep, full on United States Navy. I was in there kicking that stuff right there, hardcore in the belly of the beast. I'm being funny, not the belly of the beast, right? Nah, it was the beast. It was the military-industrial complex, but it definitely wasn't the belly of the beast. Anyway, I was in there doing the knowledge with people, bombing them white devils, right? And I remember I was reading Dr. Layla Africa, and I left it over the weekend in my work center. I left it out. I don't remember if I left it on top of my locker or if I left it like on a desk, that we all shared. Like the entire work center shared. Well, it was our supervisor's desk, but you can sit in it. Nobody was really tripping. Anyway, I think I left it there, and I was gone for the weekend. And most in my work center, it was probably out of a work center of about 15 people. There was probably 3 black people in all of it. And when I say that, I say in rotation. Like it wasn't, I think there was only one time and there was like 3 black people at one time. And everything, it just rotated. Anyway, I left it over the weekend, and the white dudes in my shop devoured African Holistic Health by Dr. Layla Africa. They devoured that joint. And when I came back, they were ready to discuss it. It was like, and the wild part was, I thought they was going to be like mad. Because, he doesn't say nice things about Europeans, about white folks in that book. He has a lot of ill things to say about them. And, he's not like, oh, these white devils, But he's just like, Europeans are evil. They do this shit. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they was loving it, man. They was like, I didn't know you could cure this with that. I know they was like, and they wanted, and the thing with me was, I hadn't finished reading it yet. Like, well, and I only did, like I was at a certain point. They went past the point where I read. So they were like giving me spoilers. So they were like excited. Like, yo, I want to buy a copy. And they was like, where can I get a copy? And I was like, yo, and me, I was like, fuck it. Let me educate these motherfuckers. So I was like, yeah, matter of fact, you give me the money and I'll go to the store and buy it from you. Because again, you couldn't walk into a Borders back then or Barnes and Nobles and find Dr. Layla Africa's African Holistic Health. You had to like go to a black owned bookstore. But they were open, man. Like they was like really open. And I thought they was going to snitch on me like, yo, this guy, because there were people on my ship that they had like books that dealt with white supremacy and stuff like that. And people would see it and they would snitch on them and they would get in trouble for it. Yep, this happened in the United States Navy in the 90s. So I thought they were going to do that, but they did not. They were pretty open. And we had some dope discussions about it, man. Ain't that wild? That's wild, right? Once again, election time is coming up, and we're going to talk about voting. I just won't spend as much time as I did that previous episode. Just real quick, want to say that I have friends, really good friends, many who are activists, many who work in their community, who do a lot of work, who don't vote. I have friends that are my age. I'm 45. I have friends that are, either a little bit older, a little bit younger than me, that have never voted in their life before. I have relatives that have never voted in their life before. And yes, they are U.S. citizens, right? For those of you that are wondering. Me personally, I've been voting ever since I was 18. So it's something that I've always done. I felt it was, I know it sounds corny, it was my civic duty. And I always felt that voting is just one arm of activism, is one arm of getting involved, particularly locally, right? So, but my friends who don't, they make legitimate arguments as to why. Some of them, and a lot of them for good reason, feel that the system is broken, and they feel that if they vote in that system, that's like a statement that says that they believe the system works. They don't believe the system works. They believe that the system was created to oppress us. And again, that's a very legitimate argument. I really don't have anything to say to that. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of them, I know people who, for example, the first time they voted in their life was during the Obama campaign back in 2007, and they left after 8 years. They were like, what has changed? Like, what has me voting for Obama changed? You know what I'm saying? So they make a very valid point. They make a very valid point. So I try not to really come at them like that. At the same time, I've learned not to come at people, period. If people don't want to vote, I don't say to them, well, you don't have a voice. Because I feel like even if you don't vote, that's still a voice, right? I still feel like you have that option, and choosing not to vote is a voice. And I think everybody has a right to complain. I think everybody has a right to voice their opinion. Let me take that back. If it's legitimate, right? I feel like you have a right to voice your opinion. Because, like, for example, if you were a Nazi, I feel like you need to shut the fuck up, right? But I don't berate people. I don't say things like that. I don't think any of us should, right? When I wanted to, particularly young people, because the demographic that we always look at, that we all know votes less than everybody else, is adults between the ages of 18 and 24. And we know that the demographic that usually votes the most, has the most turnout. Let me rephrase that. That has the most turnout are usually the elderly, the people who also have everybody has a big stake and claim when it comes to voting locally. Everybody. I'm trying to tell you right now. That's the group that I run into consistently that don't vote, and a lot of them are cynical. A lot of them, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. They're the ones that go to war when we go to war, right? They're the ones we send to the front line. They're the ones that, they go to college and they got to worry about college debt, right? They're the ones that are impacted the most negatively when it comes to public policy. So, I don't blame them. And I think we should be careful. We have these debates about blaming them for that. Like, we should be blaming. It's kind of like white supremacy. I don't blame other black people or the brown people, Asians about white supremacy. I blame white supremacy. In particular, I'm looking at you white folks, right? So I don't look at the voters necessarily. I look at the politicians, because the politicians know what they're doing wrong. A lot of them do it. Most of them do it intentionally. I'll be the first to admit that. Then people will say, well, they would say, yo, DanTresOmi, why do you vote? Again, I see it as just one arm of the battle, right? I know some politicians who have done good, on a personal level. I've worked for politicians. Are there a lot of politicians I don't trust? Yes, but there's some that I do. There's some that I put my good faith in, and they've come through. And there's some policies that I voted for that has been beneficial to my community. And there are policies I voted against that still got passed. So I think it works. Can it be better? Yes. Is it perfect? Hell to the nah. But I try not to berate people for not voting. And I hope that helps you out. I'm going to leave in the show notes some of the links that I have from the previous episode that had all the stuff that you can look up to get some more information about the policies and the politicians in your area. Word. Part of voting, and I know a lot of y'all are not in Ohio, but I thought this is important. On November 6th, we have a constitutional amendment that we're trying to approve. It's called Issue 1, and it's called the Drug and Criminal Justice Policies Initiative. I think it's dope, and I hope to see more states do this. I think that these are things that we need. The only thing I don't know about this amendment, and I'm going to talk about it in a second, because, again, I don't think it goes as far as it needs to, but I guess, like, you can get whatever you can, particularly with dealing with the prison industrial complex. So issue number 1, it makes offenses like, drug related to drug possession and use to no more than misdemeanors. So, again, if I get caught let's say, for example, if I get caught with 2 vials of crack, they're going to say, we're going to give you a misdemeanor for that. And I think that's a good idea. I don't know if that's retro. That's the question that I have. I don't know that if we do pass that constitution, if I was arrested for that last year and I did time, I'm doing time for it, will it be retro for that? That I have to do more research on. The second thing it does, it prohibits courts for sending people back who are on probation for felonies to be sent back to jail or prison for non-criminal probation violations. So a lot of times we call it getting violated, right? If you are on probation or if you are on, if you're on probation and let's say, for example, I make it late to one of my meetings, they could violate me. They could send me back for that. If let's say, for example, I quit my job or I lose my job and I don't let my PO know, they can send me back for that. So that's a non-criminal violation. And I think a lot of times that's whack. You know what I'm saying? So like, for example, I know somebody who got sent away because they weren't where they were supposed to be at during their at a particular time during their probation. So now again, if you commit a crime, then yes, you violate your parole. You violate your probation, excuse me. That makes sense. But for non-criminal probation, I think that would be a dope idea. It is also going to create sentence credits programs for inmates participating in rehabilitation work or educational programs. So if I do like community work, I can get sentence credits. I can get that taken away. Or if I'm involved in educational programs, which I know the state of Ohio kind of already has that. It's we call it a good behavior program, where if I don't have any violations and I get certain points, I get a day taken off my sentence. And I think the max is 20. I think it's 10 days per month. So like if I'm involved in educational program, like I'm getting my degree, and I'm doing kind of like community work, I get a total, and I'm going to class on time and everything, and I'm staying out of trouble. That month I get a total of 10 days knocked off at my initial sentence. So this will expand that program. And it also requires, the last thing it does, it requires the state to spend savings for reduction of inmates on drug treatment, crime victim, and rehabilitation programs. So it'll require the state to help pay for those programs, particularly those that can't afford it or don't have access. It'll do that because a lot of times most people are in jail for nonviolent drug offenses. That's across the board. So hopefully we'll see a change in that. Some will argue that this change is late. And like these are things that they should have put into place back in the 80s with the crack cocaine epidemic. And that's something that we could definitely argue and discuss because I have issues with that as well. But I'm against the prison industrial complex, and I don't think that drug offenses should be felonies unless you get caught with like bricks or something. Word. October 19th, 1993, a little over 25 years ago, the phenomenal Brooklyn hip-hop group Black Moon released their debut album, Enter the Stage. Bruh, I'm old. I was an adult at that time when that album came out. I purchased it with my own money. Matter of fact, I bought the vinyl, 2 vinyl copies of the album, and I bought 2 cassette tapes. That's how much of an adult I was. I was DJing back then. And also I bought like all the singles on vinyl. You know what I mean? So, man, what can I say about the album? Anyway, at the time, Black Moon consisted of Buckshot, who went by Buckshot Shorty back then, 5FT, 5FT, and then DJ Evil D. That was the group right there. I know a lot of times it changed up, and then Buckshot dropped to Shorty, so now he's known as Buckshot. 5FT was in and out. I know he did a bid, and he came back. And DJ Evil D and his brother, Mr. Walt, they were part of a production group. They still are, called the Beat Miners. Probably one of the best production groups, one of the most underrated production groups in hip-hop music, because they've done a lot of dope stuff. I mean, and then, what's important about Black Moon is that from this album, they introduced us to Smith & Wesson, who also came out with their own critically acclaimed stuff, as well as the 2 members, Ruck and Rock of Helter Skelter. One of them who is the late, great Sean Price, he came from there. You know what I'm saying? Havoc from Mobb Deep is on this album. It was, man, I mean, where can I go from with this? Man, so many dope beats, so many dope lyrics. And you know, they were the quintessential New York backpack rap. Like, that's really what people used for that. I think what stood out to me was, because I'm a big fan of Donald Byrd, the Beat Miners, they on that single "Buck 'Em Down," they sampled Donald Byrd's "Wind Parade." And then how many MCs has that Grover Washington Jr. Hydra joint? And how many MCs is a classic? Like, oh my God, like wow. And then who got the props that utilizes that sample from Monty Law's Tidal Wave? So man, I mean, it was just dope. Gosh, you know, it had that dark, gritty sound. It was New York. It was straight up New York. You know, Stick Up Kids and all that. I could go on and on. I still play that record to this day. Like, I still play songs from there. I still rap along. And then, yo, Busta's on that Powerful Impact joint. That Powerful Impact, boom, from a cannon. And he's not actually like rapping. He's just doing the hook. But it was just so dope. And this, when Powerful Impact, which ends up being my favorite track, of course, when that joint comes on, it's kind of like, man, like, what can you say? Like, you just be like, the bass line, yo, the Beat Miners was killing it, man. So from this album, and they were on a label that like kind of like jerked them, and you know, and I think Smith and Wesson was on that label as well. It was Nervous Records, and Nervous did a whole bunch. They had a whole bunch of stuff. I like their albums. I like their artwork for their vinyl records. I know, to me it's iconic, but they you know, they left, and then from there, Buckshot and Drew Ha started Duck Down Records, and there, you know, they put out Helter Skelter, they put out Smith and Wesson. Later on, Sean Price, you know, did some solo stuff for them. I know currently they have like Black Rob is signed to Duck Down Records, as well as my man from Organized Confusion, Frau Manch. So I mean, from that's like the springboard to what we see now. And, you know, and then, of course, the Boot Camp Clique, like all the people that made up the Boot Camp Clique. So, yo, go back and check it out. 25 years. Man, whew. For this health segment, we're going to talk about why you should listen to your body. And I think what happens a lot of times, and it's for several reasons. I try not to blame y'all for that. But our bodies are very good at telling us when something is wrong. And, you know, whether it's, you know, a headache. And I know people that tell me that they get headaches every day. Like, and it's just like, wow, like, you know, when there's like a particular pain in a particular part of your body, you should get it checked out. Because your body's not lying to you. You know your body better than you. As a capoeira instructor, as a breakdance instructor, a lot of times I'll have people in my class who they'll have a particular pain somewhere, and they'll like try to push through it. And I always ask them, no, you need to find out what that is. I need you to sit this one out, because it could be many things. And on top of that, I'm not a doctor, so I don't think I should make the call that says keep training with us or stop. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm going to tell you to stop, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to clear you. You should go see a doctor about that. And I know for men in particular, we're distrustful of doctors, particularly black men. We are distrustful of doctors, and we have a right reason to be. We should get that checked out. Get it checked out. Let them know what's going on. And we do that a lot. Like, you know, I'd be the first to admit, you know, I do it too. And I had to learn how to get out of that. And I know for a lot of us also, we don't have the insurance to cover it. And that's another dilemma. But I do believe that if you know, like, for example, if your knee is hurting, you could do research online and figure out what it is and then go from there. I mean, it's not going to fix it, but you'll know what not to do and what you shouldn't be doing. Are some of the things that we do part of our fault? Some of it is our diet. Some of it is, you know, exercise routine. But also some of it is, you know, you get older, your body doesn't work like it used to, right? And let me just say this. A lot of times your body doesn't recover how it used to. So you might need some more rest time. And I think one thing I notice about a lot of us is that we don't get enough rest. We really don't. And I think that's something that we should focus on. So pay attention to your body, party people. For this segment of how to approach women, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently today. I'm gonna explain to you why I did it, and no, it's not because I ran out of topics. You know who you are, and it's really about how it started. And pretty much what happened is I had a good friend of mine who he really liked this young woman that we both knew, that we both worked with, you know, in different capacities with. Attractive young woman, smart, you know, community worker. She put in a lot of work. And they actually had classes together, and they actually like worked together on different projects, just like I have. I've known her for a minute, and she's mad cool, and you know, like really cool. You know, she's dope. I'm not gonna lie, she's dope. He liked her, you know what I mean? And like he approached me on it, and I was like, yo, you know, you need to talk to her. The thing about him is that when it comes to women, he's very socially awkward. Even though I don't think he needed to be, because he's a charming young man. He's a cool dude. Like, you know, we have great conversations. You know, he's very respectful. He's real cool. He's mad interesting. You know what I mean? He had an ill life, and, you know, he overcame a lot of stuff. And he's real cool. Like, he's real helpful dude. And I don't think she would have declined him if she had asked him, only if she was seeing somebody else. So I said, yo, you need to go talk to her. You know, a couple months went by. I didn't say nothing. You know what I'm saying? My assumption is I tell you to do something, you do it. And he never did. And I, you know, he told me like, yo, I'm gonna say something to her this week. And I was like, wait a second. Months have passed by. And I realized that I had to sit down and school him on some things. And I did. And has he talked to her? No. Anyway, I have two mentees, two young men, and both of them were also attracted to women that I knew, young women that I knew, who were amazing women. And these are amazing gentlemen as well. And I knew that and I knew that they were single. I knew that. I knew that if these gentlemen had approached them, they would not have declined them. They would have said yes to a date or whatever. Same situation. They did not do it. So a lot of it is confidence. A lot of it, I feel like they didn't have the tools to know how to talk to women. Period. Right? They just didn't know. And I'm gonna admit, a lot of them. I'm gonna say all three of them were intimidated. I'm gonna be quite frank. And it has nothing to do with the women. This is that a lot of dudes that say that they are intimidated by women of a particular caliber has nothing to do with the actual women. It has everything to do with the men. They just don't have the tools. They don't know how to talk to women, or they think they don't know how to talk to women. Because to me, I kind of feel like for you to approach women, you should be a good conversationalist, and that's across the board. And they were good conversationalists. So that's what I'm gonna say right there, and that's why I started this segment on how to approach women. I should have brought that up before, but you know, y'all can use this advice, gentlemen. Take notes.
It's all a game. It's all a game.
For episode 48, here is the shout outs. Number one to the homie Phyllis Iller out of the ATL. She was the one that reminded me that Black Moon's Enter the Stage was at its 25th anniversary. And shout out to my man Aaron of AP2 Photography. If you haven't checked them out, go to ap2photography.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. Dope photographer. I love that brother. He had a show this weekend. He had an exhibit that started this weekend. And it was called Ghetto Walking. He had me hosted. I haven't hosted a show in a while. So it was, you know, I loved it. I still got it. And I was kicking butt. Also want to shout out to my man Chip Fontaine. Probably, in my opinion, the dopest poet in our region, hands down. I'll fight anybody in the street for that. And what I mean by that, Miami Valley in Ohio. So he's real dope. So he had a show this weekend as well, and we were on the same show together. So that was really dope. No, I'm not a spoken word artist. And also shout out to Third Perk Coffee House here in Dayton, Ohio. Love you, Juanita. And that's it for episode 48. Once again, party people, another episode is done. Number 48 of Where My Killa Tape At. Again, if you want to join in on the discussion online, you can use the hashtag Where My Killa Tape At. You spell Killa Killa. Also hit me up on the Twitters at DanTresOmi, DanTresOmi, or at Omi's Podcast, OMIS, and then you spell out podcast. Hit me up over there. And you know, if you want to send inquiries, questions, or whatever, you can DM me there. But for bookings, again, I could host a show, do panel discussions. I could talk to your young people about everything from hip hop culture to intersectionality, to black male feminism, to comic books. Let me know what's up. And you can check me out at my Gmail at DanTresOmi, DanTresOmi, at gmail.com, and put in there, booking in the subject line. And I'm going to put all that stuff in the show notes as well. Thank y'all again for listening. I appreciate y'all. Do me a favor, tell your folks to subscribe. They don't have to listen to my podcast. As long as they subscribe, we need those numbers. And until next time, y'all be safe. Peace.